Today's 65-year-olds can expect to live another 20 years, according to the Social Security Administration. Meanwhile, baby boomers, the generation born between 1946 and 1964, are heading into retirement in droves. And even though higher longevity can be exciting after decades of hard work, it comes with a hefty price tag. Unlike their parents and grandparents, pre-retirees and retirees face a totally different retirement security landscape nowadays. Insufficient financial resources paint a gloomy picture for many of them, who are likely to face a nightmarish personal financial crisis as they age. But they won't be the only ones. The vast majority of Americans are going to be impacted by the looming retirement crisis too. According to researchers' projections, the bottom 80% will be left to pick up this expensive bill. This means that with Social Security funds drying up, workers will be forced to pay increasingly higher taxes to fund retirement benefits for millions of elderly Americans that are at risk of falling below the poverty line. The outlook is scary, especially as we move toward another deep recession, which can prevent even more people from starting building their nest eggs for the years ahead. That's why in today's video, we've gathered very important information about the state of retirement security in the United States that everyone should know. But before moving on, we kindly ask you to support our work with a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Estimates from the U.S. Census Bureau indicate that about 10,000 baby boomers are reaching retirement age every day, and over the next 7 years, all boomers will be at least age 65. While average life expectancies are increasing, these longer periods of retirement are beginning to strain the financial resources intended to support workers in their golden years. In essence, the retirement crisis is a financial crisis, as it reflects the stark mathematical reality that the overwhelming majority of the U.S. population has saved a lot less than they'll need to retire. While for workers in the top 10% of income distribution, the median amount saved is $200,000. Median savings of workers in the middle class are only $60,000, or 3 times less than upper-income Americans. At the same time, the typical low-income older worker has nothing saved for retirement. And a new study released by the New School of Social Research shows that as the U.S. wealth gap widens, more and more households with older adults face financial risks. Their updated analysis revealed that most older Americans have made little to no progress toward financial security over the past 3 decades. In 2018, 47 million households with older adults, or 80%, were financially struggling or at risk of falling into economic hardship. Moreover, this trend is worsening over time, as 90% of older households experienced decreases in income and net value of wealth between 2019 and 2022. Researcher Teresa Gilladucci notes that her startling findings show that working Americans are actually going backwards. Most Americans who were middle class when they were working all their lives are going to be poor or near poor retirees, said Gilladucci. We're going to have massive downward mobility, meaning that if you were a middle class all your life, now you may find yourself to be really in a chronic state of distress about finances, and it gets worse as you get older. The study also highlighted that because of systemic flaws in our retirement system, the number of poor or near poor people over the age of 62 will increase by 22.3% by 2035, jumping from 18 million to over 21.3 million. As a group, American workers are estimated to be $7.83 trillion short of what they need to retire comfortably. While there are several things to blame for this, including the rising cost of health care in retirement, the main reason is the crumbling three-legged retirement, or the almost utopic combination of federal benefits, employer-sponsored retirement plans, and stable levels of personal savings. According to the National Council on Aging, Social Security bankruptcy is a reality. The program created by Franklin D. Roosevelt to prevent aging Americans from falling into poverty is actually on the brink of collapse. According to its own administrators, Social Security is projected to be depleted by the end of this decade. At the same time, pension plans, once considered a standard of corporate America, are going extinct. Last year, less than 1 out of every 5 private sector employees had one. In fact, according to data from the Department of Labor, the number of pension plans offering defined benefits dropped by about 73% from 1982 to 2022. Most pension plans have been replaced by 401k plans, which don't require contributions from employers and place a greater responsibility on the worker. On top of that, 401k plans don't offer a way to invest in something that provides guaranteed income, and the latest blow, triggered by the panic selling wave on the stock market, resulted in huge losses for retirees and near retirees, even for those in higher income brackets. Making all this worse is a lack of planning. This is the first generation to face saving for retirement on their own, explains Elise Foster, CFP and principal at Harbor Financial Grouping. I believe early on there was a lack of information on the importance of saving early and saving often. The assumption seemed to be you are on your own. And since our society hasn't been educated about these risks before it was too late, many older adults are now just realizing that they may not be able to retire at all. If you were 55 years old in 2021, you have experienced 4 recessions that might have left you unemployed for extended periods. The Great Recession was particularly detrimental for older workers, producing higher rates of job loss and longer periods of joblessness for older workers compared to younger ones. Millions of homeowners lost their homes or found themselves deep underwater during the housing crash. The National Council on Aging also notes that 10 years after the financial crisis, neither the silent generation, which refers to Americans born between 1928 and 1945, nor baby boomers had fully regained the wealth they lost. These economic calamities had long-lasting effects that were very difficult, if not impossible, to recover from. The following years of low interest rates drastically undermined the yields of bond funds that savers and retirees were urged to purchase. These yields, in turn, were invested in capital that earned virtually no interest. Furthermore, most of the gains in net wealth recorded until 2018 were due to increases in the net value of older adults' primary residence. Non-housing financial assets, however, remained relatively flat for the bottom 60% of older adults. This shows that home ownership is still an important vehicle for wealth accumulation in the United States, but as we're warned about the burst of the greatest housing bubble in history and a devastating stock market crash happening almost simultaneously, the real possibilities for workers to boost their gains and increase their assets are virtually null. On the other hand, over the past few years, high inflation has forced savers to limit or altogether suspend contributions to retirement plans. Household wealth has taken a severe beating in 2022 amid worsening economic volatility brought on by the Federal Reserve's interest rate hikes. In fact, the loss of household wealth is estimated at as much as $10 trillion last year, according to the findings of Northwestern Mutual's most recent Planning and Progress study. One of the revealing pieces of information unveiled in the study is the amount Americans now say they'll need to retire comfortably. That figure surged a whopping 20% from 2021 to 2022. In the 2021 edition of its Planning and Progress study, headline inflation in the U.S. was at 2.6%. During that period, survey respondents said they would need $1.05 million to enjoy comfortable retirement. But when Northwestern Mutual conducted its 2022 edition of the survey, headline inflation was 7.9%, more than 3 times higher than it was a year prior. And this time round, respondents said they would need $1.25 million to retire comfortably. The soaring cost of living has had a major impact on retirement savers' view of financial security. And what's even more alarming is the fact that the 20% still may be well short of the amount ultimately required for the secure retirement that savers are seeking. Even if annual inflation were to average a mere 3% over the next 20 years, it would reduce the purchasing power of a nest egg by nearly half in today's dollars. And there's a growing number of forecasts that say inflation over the long term could be every bit of 3% or more, researchers wrote. Not only will Americans need considerably larger account balances by the time they retire, but the study also revealed another worrying trend. Workers are already contending with sizable drops in the current value of their savings. Northwestern Mutual reports that the average size of Americans' retirement savings sank 11% last year, dropping from $98,800 in 2021 to $86,869. In addition to exposing the devastating effect of the recent economic downturn on retirement accounts, this piece of data reveals something else, just how woefully behind their target retirement figure Americans actually are. Average account balances aren't even 10% of the amount that Americans say they'll need when it's time to stop working. And given that 35 million households can't afford more than 2 years of long-term care, even if their average income and the household value of their financial assets were added together, this puts about 10% of all people in the nation at heightened risk of facing economic insecurity in their final years. Deteriorating economic conditions go a long way toward explaining why so many households have no significant retirement savings. Previous recessions resulted in fewer workers funding retirement programs, resulting in significant stress on pay-as-you-go systems such as Social Security. In 1950, there were 16.5 workers for every Social Security beneficiary. Today, there are less than 3 workers paying in for each recipient. With federal funds drying up in a not-so-distant future, the bottom 80% of U.S. workers will be facing tax hikes of 25 up to 40% to pay for these scheduled benefits. In essence, to guarantee the retirement of older generations, younger Americans risk being left with not enough resources to start saving for their own retirements. Some economists say that the solution to this crisis would be incentivizing Americans to work longer. If you haven't been able to save enough, work longer. If your savings are wiped out by divorce or medical bills, work longer. But even if people have the health and strength to keep working past traditional retirement ages, research conducted by ACOA finds that working longer doesn't result in significant increases in retirement income. The models typically used to justify that premise don't reflect older workers' real experiences in the labor market. In reality, many older workers earn so little they cannot afford to delay claiming Social Security benefits, nor can they save for retirement. The purported solution of working longer ignores the effect of the recession by doing nothing for jobless older workers, the association outlines. The mass layoffs experienced by older workers in the wake of the pandemic are proof that older workers face higher risks when working longer. Beginning in March 2020, nearly 5 million workers aged 55 to 70 lost their jobs. Many unemployed older workers may never find another job, a threat that'll stay with us as another recession begins. With more layoffs being announced every day, young Americans may have to delay their plans to save for the future as well, exacerbating this concerning issue. In other words, the retirement crisis is looming over everyday Americans like a dark cloud, ready to unleash a storm of financial insecurity and hardship. The harsh reality is that many will have to continue working for as long as they possibly can just to survive. This is a ticking time bomb that'll ultimately disrupt all of our lives and tear apart what is left of our economy. Thank you for watching.